Hi, welcome to the Prob with Rob. In this section, we're going to be learning how to use the least common denominator method for adding and subtracting unlike fractions. We already learned about the easiest common denominator method, which I prefer most of the time. But sometimes it's better to use this method, like if one of the denominators is a multiple of the other denominator, or if you have more than two fractions that you're adding or subtracting, or if your teacher tells you that you need to use this method. So, let's get started. Now the first step for finding the least common denominator is to find the least common multiple of the denominators. And so our first problem is to find the least common multiple of 3 and 4. That's what LCM stands for, least common multiple. Now how do we find that? Well, we make a chart up here and we list the multiples of 3 and 4 till we find one in common. Now remember, a multiple is just what you get when you multiply a number by a whole number. So we're going to do it in order. First column is 1, so 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times 1 is 4. Then we move on to the next column, the next multiple. So 2. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 4 is 8. And there's nothing in common yet. They're not the same. So we just keep going. We move on to column 3. So times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. Still nothing in common, so we keep going. 4 times 3 is 12. And there we go, 12 and 12 in both rows. So our common multiple, our least common multiple for 3 and 4 is 12. For this problem, we have find the least common denominator, LCD for least common denominator, of 1/4 and 1/5. Now to do that, we need to find the least common multiple of the denominators, in this case 4 and 5. So we put those in our chart in the times 1 column, 4 and 5, and then we find the multiples along here till we find ones that are in common. So times 2, 2 times 4 is 8, 2 times 5 is 10, nothing in common yet. So we move on to 3. 3 times 4 is 12, 3 times 5 is 15, still nothing in common. Move on to 4. 4 times 4 is 16, 4 times 5 is 20, nothing in common yet. So move on to 5. 5 times 4 is 20, and now we do have something in common, 20. So the least common multiple of 4 and 5 is 20. And that means the least common denominator of 1/4 and 1/5 is 20. And you might notice that this is the exact same denominator we would have got with the easiest common denominator method. It's just another way to do it. And now we have the problem 5/8 plus 3/10. And we're going to use the least common denominator method to add these fractions. So we need to find the least common multiple of these denominators, 8 and 10. So we put it into our chart up here in the times 1 column, and then we just go through one at a time until we find multiples that are the same. So for times 2, 2 times 8 is 16. 2 times 10 is 20. Nothing in common. 3 times 8 is 24. 3 times 10 is 30. Still nothing in common. 4 times 8 is 32. 4 times 10 is 40. Still nothing. 5 times 8 is 40. And there we go, 40. Okay. So 40 is the least common multiple of 8 and 10. So it means it's going to be the least common denominator of our new fractions. And we can see from our chart that to get 10 to be 40, we multiply by 4. So that means we're going to make our whole fraction for 10 as 4/4. And then for the 8, we have times 5 to get 40. So that means our whole fraction on this side is going to be 5/5. So now we'll multiply this side. 5 times 5 is 25 for our top number. And then 5 times 8 is 40. And then plus. And then on this side, we have 3 times 4 is 12. And then 10 times 4 is 40. So now we have like fractions, and we can add them using the simple procedure. So 25 plus 12 is 37. And then we keep the same bottom number, which is 40. So 5/8 plus 3 over 10 equals 37 over 40. And as you might have noticed, in this case, we did get a different bottom number than we would have if we used the easiest common denominator method. We would have had 8 times 10, which is 80, so that you can see that there is a difference. And now we have 1/2 plus 3/8. Now in this case, I can see that 8 is a multiple of 2. So that means that 8 is going to be the least common multiple. So we only have to change this fraction to make its bottom number also be 8. So how do we do that? Well, 4 times 2 equals 8. So the whole fraction, 4 over 4 times this fraction, will give us what we want. So 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. And now we have the bottom number 8. So we can just put 3 over 8 here. So 4 over 8 plus 3 over 8. Now we have like fractions that we're adding. 4 plus 3 equals 7. Keep 8 as the bottom number. So 1/2 plus 3/8 equals 7/8. And now we have 7 over 12 minus 1 over 6. Now this is another case where it's very easy to see that one denominator is a multiple of the other denominator. I can see that 12 is a multiple of 6, so I know that 12 is going to be the least common multiple and the least common denominator. So all I have to do is change 1 over 6 to have the denominator 12. So I do that by multiplying it by the whole fraction, 2 over 2, because 2 times 6 is 12. So 1 times 2 equals 2. 6 times 2 equals 12. Bring down this part of the problem. 7 over 12. So now we have 7 over 12 minus 2 over 12. And they're the same bottom numbers, so I can just do the simple procedure to subtract here. 7 minus 2 equals 5. So that's our top number. And then I keep the same bottom number, 12. So 7 over 12 minus 1 over 6 equals 5 over 12. And here we have 1 over 10 plus 1 over 100. Now the nice thing about base 10 fractions is that you know one of them is going to be a multiple of the other. We know that 100 is a multiple of 10, and we also know it's really easy to turn 10 into 100. All I have to do is multiply it by the whole fraction, 10 over 10, and then we'll have 100 as the bottom number of both fractions. So 10 times 1 equals 10. 10 times 10 equals 100. Then I'll bring down this part of the problem, 1 over 100. And now we have 100 as the bottom number of both fractions, so we just add using the simple procedure. 10 plus 1 equals 11, and we keep 100 as the bottom number. So 1 over 10 plus 1 over 100 equals 11 over 100. And now we have 2/3 plus 1/4 plus 1/6. Now sometimes you'll get problems like this where you have more than 2 fractions that you need to add or subtract. And you could, if you want, just treat it as 2 separate problems. You could add 2/3 and 1/4 and then take that answer and then add 1/6. Or you can find a denominator for all 3 of these. And I'm going to show you that method. We're going to find the least common denominator for all 3 of these fractions, and you'll see that it's really not so bad. So I extended our chart to include 3 rows now, because we need to find the least common multiple of 3, 4, and 6. So we go on to column 2. 2 times 3 is 6. Well, those are in common, but we need all 3 to be common. So let's see here. So 2 times 4, that's 8. 2 times 6 is 12. So there's no multiple that's common between all 3 of these yet. So let's move on to column 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 4 is 12. Oh, we're getting closer. 3 times 6 is 18. There's still not a multiple in all 3 columns that's the same. So we move on to column 4. So 4 times 3 is 12. Oh, and now we have it. 12, 12, and 12 is a multiple of all 3 of these numbers. So let's go ahead and circle those. And we know that our common multiple, and so therefore our common denominator of these 3 fractions is 12. So now we need to put in the whole numbers to make these fractions have 12 as their bottom number. So for 2 over 3, we know for 3 that we multiplied by 4 to get 12. So our whole fraction for that is going to be 4 over 4 times 2 over 3. Then we're going to add. So let's see, for 1 over 4, we have 3 times 4 equals 12. So that means that 3 over 3 is going to be our whole fraction for this, times 1 over 4. And then we're adding in here, we have 2 times 6 equals 12. So 2 is our whole fraction for that. So now let's multiply these here. 4 times 2 is 8. 8. 4 times 3 is 12, so 8 over 12, plus, and we have 3 times 1 equals 3. 3 times 4 equals 12. That's good. Then we have 2 times 1 equals 2. 2 times 6 equals 12. So now all three of our fractions have the same denominator. So we can add them using our simple procedure. So we have 8 plus 3 equals 11. 11 plus 2 equals 13. So 13 is our top number, and then we keep the same bottom number of all three fractions, 12. So 2/3 plus 1/4 plus 1/6 equals 13 over 12. So that's how you add and subtract unlike fractions using the least common denominator method. And you probably noticed that it's a little bit trickier than the easiest common denominator method, but it's worth knowing. And to get good at it, you're going to have to practice. So do those exercises, and I'll see you next time.